Jim Bridenstine is the first Oklahoman to serve as NASA Administrator. This April, the former congressman will complete his second year in that role. And under his leadership, 2020 is shaping up as one of the most significant years in the agency's 61-year history. And he discussed that in this exclusive interview with ONR.
We are going to launch American astronauts on American rockets from American soil for the first time since the retirement of the space shuttles in 2011. That's going to be a milestone for our country. I think the whole world is going to be watching. We're going to roll out for the first time the biggest, most powerful rocket ever built, the Space Launch System, and we're going to test it for the first time in Mississippi. It's taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's going to be visually stunning. And we're looking to launch that rocket in 2021. But ultimately, if we can get it tested in 2020 and get it to the Cape, that's going to be a huge milestone. We're going to build a human landing system to go to the surface of the moon. Now, that's not going to be finished in 2020, but we haven't had a human landing system funded since, 1972. But 2020 is significant for another reason. We are launching what we call the Mars 2020 rover to Mars. This will be the 9th landing on Mars. It'll be done by the United States of America with a coalition of partners for instruments. The Mars 2020 rover is going to have on it a helicopter. For the first time in human history, we're going to fly a helicopter on another world. Now that launches in 2020. I think 2020 is going to be significant. Probably the most significant thing is a return to flight with American astronauts.
NASA's 2020 budget is $22.6 billion. Big money that some believe could be better spent elsewhere. The critics are going to say, we've been to the moon, we've done that, we've been there. Why go again? It's expensive.
There is no agency that returns the investment that NASA returns. We are less, as an agency, we're less than 1/2% of the federal budget. And you look at all of these technologies and all of these capabilities that have come from this little agency. Rich, there are people all over Oklahoma right now watching this, maybe using DirecTV or Dish Network. That's basically space capability delivered by NASA. We talk about internet broadband. Maybe somebody's going to watch this on the internet. Internet broadband from space for rural Oklahoma, critically important. We talk about how we navigate with GPS, how we produce food. We're using NASA technology to increase crop yields, reduce water usage, preserve nitrates in the soil. NASA is building a multi-billion-dollar, in fact right now it's a $400 billion economy in space. We think that in the coming years it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar economy in space.
The plan was to put Americans back on the moon in 2028, but you've sped that up. Yeah. What's the point of that?
There's two risks. One is technical risk, and NASA is really, really good at retiring technical risk. The other risk, which NASA historically has not been good at retiring, is political risk. One of the ways to retire political risk, and you can't get rid of all of it, but one of the ways to do it is to accelerate. Numerous Congresses don't get involved and start, hacking away at what you're trying to achieve. You retire political risk by going fast, and that's what we've done.
The new plan, return to the moon in 2024, and that would not be possible without partnerships with private companies like Elon Musk's SpaceX, which successfully launched a payload of 60 Starlink satellites for the U.S. Space Force on Monday night.
Ignition, liftoff. Here's Starlink for the Falcon Space Force inaugural launch.
So these landers that we're going to go to the moon with, NASA is not going to own and operate the landers. We're going to buy a service from commercial companies. And the goal being that NASA wants to be one customer of many customers, driving down our costs. But we also want to have numerous providers that are competing against each other on cost and innovation. We want every part of the architecture to be reusable. That's why Apollo was not sustainable. Every time you went to the moon, you threw away the rocket, you threw away the crew capsule, you threw away the command module, you threw away the lander. It was too expensive.
The Apollo program also lacked diversity, and changing that is a priority.
Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo in Greek mythology. She is the goddess of the moon. And this time, under the Artemis program, we get to go with a very diverse, highly qualified astronaut corps that includes women.
One of them is Laurel O'Hara, who worked as a project engineer in Oklahoma City for Rocket Plane Limited prior to completing her astronaut training. So you're going to put a woman on the moon. And we've got some great candidates here in Oklahoma. Could that person, those people be one of them?
There's a lot of great candidates, and I'm not going to say who we're going to pick. I will tell you that this has everybody in America excited. Nobody more excited than my 11-year-old daughter. In the Apollo era, there were no opportunities for women. All of the astronauts were selected from fighter pilot backgrounds and test pilot backgrounds. We have astronaut women that have been in space, multiple times, that have proven themselves to be exceptionally capable, and in fact, in many cases, the best at what they do.
And best of all, they're American women transported by American rockets to the soon-to-be-built Gateway space station that will orbit the moon, providing a sustainable base to eventually send astronauts on to Mars. Are you frustrated at all, though, that we use Russians to get our astronauts up to the space station?
We're not ready right now, but 2020 is the year. This year is the year we're going to make it happen. I will say it is frustrating having to be dependent on the Russians to get access to the International Space Station. I will also say that the partnership with Russia has been strong since 1975. And of course, it was General Tom Stafford from right here in Oklahoma who went through the hatch and shook hands with a cosmonaut for the first time in 1975. But here's the thing. We don't want it to be a dependency. We want it to be a partnership. It is a tool of national diplomacy. It's a tool of cooperation. I think it's a symbol of hope for the world.
In part 2 of our interview, which will air next Friday, Bridenstine discusses his rocky road to becoming NASA's chief, his concerns about the motives of China's space program, and his changing opinion of global warming and what NASA is doing to address that issue.